So let's go ahead and get started, laying all the way down onto our backs. And once we find our muscles comfortably relaxing into the earth, let's purposely spread our arms and our legs a little bit wider than we normally place them for a Shavasana pose. And feel how the body responds to this. Just notice, are there any different things that come up by shifting the pose? Notice how the breath responds. The reason why I had us go a little bit wider for this moment is because our intention today is all about vulnerability. It's all about opening up muscle groups, perhaps that are a little bit more vulnerable, or stretching our body in ways that normally the body wants to protect itself. So one of those areas that we're going to focus on, especially throughout the class today, is the side rib area, the waist and the side of the body. The reason being, when the arms are at our sides, we don't always notice it, but energetically and physically, that position of arms right next to our body is a very protective, very comforting position. It's like we're protecting our heart space physically from any sort of arrows that might come through the side body, or energetically protecting ourselves from opening up our heart in vulnerable ways to people that might potentially hurt us. But today we're trusting that everything's going to be okay, and we're opening our heart wide open. So let me give you an example. There's somebody that I'm friends with who just recently got staph infection in her legs, and it ended up scarring her legs. So for her, this is leading her into a very vulnerable time, because now she feels like she needs to protect her legs and cover them so that she doesn't ever get into an embarrassing situation now. And so this idea of vulnerability is opening up ourselves to potentially be vulnerable, be embarrassed, even though that's in a very uncomfortable situation, opening ourselves up to those types of scenarios and trusting in the humanity of others, trusting that by us opening ourselves up, maybe others can open themselves up as well. It's almost like a chain reaction of vulnerability. The more open we are, the more permission it gives others to open up as well. So let's take all these ideas that were just thrown at you, just discussed about vulnerability, and place them in the back of the mind as we move through poses today that are vulnerable in our body. Let yourself continue to listen to the intuition teaching us ways in which we can be just a little bit more vulnerable, especially with the people that we care about, the people that we love the most. Opening up ourselves to potential embarrassment so that they can feel free to, be embarrassed around us, and everything's going to be okay. We're all safe. So with that idea to lead us on, let's start off. Let's take the knees into the chest just like normal, rocking around on the low back and the hips just a few moments. And then as we're starting to work into the side body here, we're going to warm up our body with little side crunches. What we do is we have our elbows and our knees start off bent inward toward one another. So if you can even touch elbows to knees, touch them. And then one side at a time, it stretches out long. So maybe right arm and right leg stretch long away from one another. And then exhale, switch to the other side. Exhale, switch. Exhale, switch. This is a good chance to feel the strength that is in the side body, in the transverse abdominis, and in the obliques. So let's take this 5 more times to each side. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Drop the feet down and then slide the legs long to the ground. Reach the arms up above head. And we're going to take the shape of a banana. So grab onto the left wrist and start scooting the shoulders off the right top edge of the mat. Take the left ankle and cross it over the right. And then scoot both legs off the right edge of the mat. So everything's like a big banana shifted off to that right edge. But both shoulders and both hips are in contact with the ground. So feel this vulnerability. It actually feels pretty good to stretch like this, but notice if anything comes up energetically, any of those feelings of, I need to protect myself, I need to be safe, and just notice. See if you can be with it rather than fleeing from it immediately. Obviously, vulnerability doesn't mean go into pain. So as we continue into our class, if you need breaks or if you need to take child poses, anything like that, feel free to, absolutely. But in just good vulnerable stretches, I invite you to try to be with it. So let's take 2 more breaths for this side. And then a gentle release. Scoot back onto the middle of your mat. And then we can shift to the second side. So up above head, now we're holding onto right wrist. Arms scoot off the top left edge. Right ankle over, legs to the left. This is a pose that can be passive. You can just relax into the shape and you're getting a good stretch. You can also be active, pushing against the ankle and the wrist connections. So just notice what feels good, what feels okay, and try to be with it. Two more deep breaths. And after that second one, let's release our way back into the middle of our mat. And while we're on our back here, let's take eagle's pose. This can be another very vulnerable shape because it's almost like your arms are like preventing you from being able to view the space in front of you. So let's start off planting the feet. We cross our right thigh over the left thigh. Maybe the toes can do a wrap. Our right elbow goes under the left elbow. If you can wrap the hands around to reach each other's palms, take that. And maybe see if you can touch the fingertips to the ground right above the head. And just try to breathe into it. It's funny how this is a vulnerable pose because it feels like we're wound up into ourselves, so it feels like it should be very protective. Yet by raising our arms up like this to get the shoulders stretching, it is kind of exposing for the heart as well as those side ribs. So let's take 2 more breaths. Try to relax the shoulders down away from ears. And then let's take 5 crunches from here. So exhale, touch elbows and knees together. Inhale, drop back down to the stretch. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Open the arms, spreading them wide on the ground. Bump the hips just a little bit to the right, and then start to let the knees fall over to the left. This is in a way a vulnerable pose because we could not get up and run away very quickly. We've kind of tied our legs together. But notice how good this feels to be vulnerable in the side of the hip, in that IT band area. Give yourself permission to just open up that right here, right now. That's all. Two more breaths. And then we return our hips to the ground, recenter them, slip it from being that tight cross to now just having the right ankle on the left side. Once we've got that, thread the arms around the left side. It can be around thigh, it can be around shin, whatever you can reach, and hug it in. Feel it getting deeper into the hip, even a little bit into the glute. Sometimes it's possible to straighten the left leg up and walk the hands up that left side. So you can try that out if you want to. Sometimes trying new things is the vulnerable time where it's like, oh, my body doesn't exactly go into that shape, but I'll try it. It's like that beginner's mindset. And then completely release this left leg, drop that foot to the ground, and give the right leg one last chance to stretch out just on its own. So right leg up to the sky, hold on to the back of it, give it a little tug in. Good things opening up for our body already. Good, now let's drop that right foot to the ground, cross the left thigh over, like the eagle's wrap, so maybe toes wrap, maybe not a huge pressure. Left elbow goes under, and have the fingertips continue to trace up, trying to touch the ground above the head. As shoulders relax down away from ears, we should be opening the tops of the shoulders. Five crunches from here. Take an inhale, breath. Exhale, touch up. And 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Spread the arms open on the ground like a figure T. Bump the hips just slightly to the left, and then the knees start to fall to the right. Another good breath flowing through the body. Exhale, return the hips to the ground, recenter them. Slip down to the left ankle on right thigh and thread the arms around the right thigh or the right shin. Perhaps see if that right leg can straighten up. Try and walk the hands up that side. And then as we release, drop the right foot down, and then left leg gets one last chance just to stretch on its own, up to the sky. Taking one last pose here before we move on, happy baby pose. Grabbing onto the feet, you can be rocking or you can be in stillness. For some people, this is a very vulnerable pose because people don't necessarily like to expose, their butt space to the sky. It's like, I should be hiding it. I should be sitting cross-legged. Sometimes it's not what the hips need though. So let your hips be open and vulnerable. Two more breaths. And let's try a little game, trying to roll like a ball from happy baby pose. So we may be completely stuck on our back and we may look like a little beetle. That's the vulnerable aspect. We might be making fun of ourselves. But see if you can, roll your butt up and then maybe try to find a little balance while still holding onto the feet. If nothing happens, don't stress too much. Just keep on trying a couple of times. Kind of funky. It's that time where it's like, okay, I guess I can laugh at myself. I'm that vulnerable. And then eventually go ahead and make your way up to a nice boat pose, releasing the feet. Try to see if you can straighten your right leg. Maybe releasing the right hand for a moment. And then switch it out. Try to straighten out left. Maybe releasing left hand. Good. Try to straighten both. And then see if you can lower the legs down to staff pose. Good work. Let's reach up to the sky. Just take a little break, reaching over the legs. As spine reaches up, let's take a cobbler pose, bottoms of the feet together. And then relax the spine back up and over, giving that spine a little bit more space to open. And then sitting back up, find yourself in an easy cross-leg shape. From here, clasp your hands together, releasing the pointer finger and the thumb. You're touching each pointer finger and thumb. This is our Vishnu Mudra. Reach up to the sky, straight arms, and then keeping the arms glued right by the ears, we're going to start tracing little circles. So imagine the fingertips are tracing circles. Just start off nice and small. Just kind of see how the spine and the body responds to this. Part of being vulnerable through our side body is we are getting into the spine perhaps a little bit more than we normally might. So just experience what it is. It might be best for your spine to stay small or maybe go a little bit bigger. Kind of play with how big can I go with it still feeling okay for my body. And whatever direction your circles are at, go ahead and reverse the direction now. Maybe the circles start to go a little bit smaller again, getting some nice easeful ones. And notice how the arms start to get tired when they're up overhead. Tired can be another way of becoming vulnerable. And one more little circle. And then bring the arms open to each side. Now focus on the side ribs. So that one helps us to move around this upper body. Let's focus on the side ribs, so help to shift your rib cage as far to the right as it can go. And then roll it forward. Roll it to the left. and all the way back. So take huge circles like this. Really trying to focus on the rib cage. How big of a circle can the rib cage trace? Good, and then reverse the circle. Our arms are starting to get tired here. That's okay. We're in that vulnerability, building that gentle strength. If you ever need to drop them down though, that is okay. Good. And then drop the hands to the knees. Our low back doesn't have much mobility, but focusing on the low back, let's see how much of a circle we can do. And so this is going to be a lot lower in the belly and in the abdominal than the last couple of circles. Notice how it's easy to round forward. Can you find a slight arch? Or sorry, it's easy to round back. Can you find a slight arch when you are going forward? Arch through the low back. Good. And then reverse these circles. Beautiful. One more circle to this direction. And then our spine back stacked nice and tall. Drop your right hand to the floor on your right. Left hand reaches up and over. Feel yourself leaning to that side. And rising up, switch directions. And rising up, swing both of your feet underneath you. You start off more or less sitting on the feet, but then you shift to sit on the right side of your feet. Good, so from here, leave your left hand grabbing onto the ankles, and then the right hand tries to reach even further than we did a moment ago, up and over. So you're reaching toward the direction of your bent legs. One more breath. And then rise up, switch to sit on the other side of the feet. Try to do the same thing. See if you can reach up and maybe over with that left arm. This is pretty good. Sometimes that's where vulnerability is. Like it doesn't feel like something I would naturally do. Yeah. Good. Take one more inhale. And then exhale, pick yourself up to go nice and evenly for cat-cows. Just let that spine go free, up and down. We're going at whatever speed your breath is flowing. So just pay attention to the inhales and the exhales. One more cycle up and down. And then from here, walk the hands just slightly forward of where they are. Spread the fingertips wide, pressing down through every knuckle, every joint. Tuck the toes, lift up to downward facing dog. And find some vulnerability in the spine in down dog. So this could look like shifting the hips around left and right to kind of wag the low back. This could look more like undulations, kind of rounding up and rolling back through the spine like a slinky. Just find some way for the spine to kind of be vulnerable, maybe exploring in a way you never really have through down dog before. And just 2 more breaths of play like this. And then lift up nice and tall as you can, down dog. 2 more breaths. Good. From here, right leg starts to float up to the sky. Pull it, reach nice and high. And then step that right foot in between the hands. The back knee can gently drop to the earth. And then we walk our hands up onto that right thigh. Sink the hips forward if they relaxed back at all. And let's see if our balance is such that we can circle the arms up, grabbing, placing the fingers together, except for first finger and thumb. Bring the arms right up by the ears. Try to straighten the spine up and see what it feels like to lean to the right just a few inches. And back up. Lean to the left just a few inches. And back up. Maybe trace slightly backwards a few inches. And then let yourself release the hands. Front leg go straight. Drop the hands down to the ground. Half split. Good. When we step this right leg back, let's take a little mini flow so we can be on our knees, or we can lift knees up for a full chaturanga. Lowering down to the ground. Take a little back bend, doesn't have to be super deep, but just listen to the heart. At what point does it become vulnerable? And then if you'd like a child pose, that's fine. Otherwise, downward facing dog is beautiful. Maybe legs start to get pedaled through. Trying to open up deeper and deeper in those tissues, becoming vulnerable through that. Let's lift left leg up to the sky. And step it in between hands. Back knee drops gently down to the ground. Walk hands up to the thigh, but make sure you're still sinking hips forward. And once we're here, if your balance is such that it's okay to clasp your hands, release the pointer and the thumb. Bring the arms plugged right into the ears. The spine's lifting taller. And start to lean just a couple of inches to the left. And back up a few inches to the right. And back up, a few inches backwards. Sometimes this one's the most vulnerable. Take another good inhale. Exhale, release the hands, straighten the front leg, drop down to the safety of this nice half split. Beautiful. Start to bring this left leg back. Again, you can be kneeling down or in a full plank as we lower through chaturanga. Take a nice back bend. And child pose or down dog. Zero rush at all. At some point, you'll feel ready to come up to the top of the mat in a forward fold. So when you're ready, feel free to make your way there. From here, either hands on the shins or hands on the floor. Try to straighten the spine as much as possible. Bring the Awesome. Bring the right fingertips up to the sky and then continue to rotate that shoulder open just another inch beyond what it naturally goes to. Beautiful. Right hand drops down, left arm starts to rise up to the sky. Maybe the shoulder goes back just a little bit more. And drop it back down. Release the muscles of the back downward for one more inhale. A nice exhale. With the next inhale, rise. Beautiful. Clasping the hands together, release the pointer finger and the thumb. Bring the arms right up by the ears. Straighten the spine upward. And try to lean laterally to the left, so fingertips are tracing to the right. And up, over to the left. And up. Leave the arms plugged in right by the ears right here as we start to sit back like we're going into a chair. And then straighten the legs. So sitting into a chair 5 more times, sit back. And up. Exhale. Inhale. Feel how it's a bit more challenging to leave the arms up right here. Here's 2. And 1. Beautiful. Take another inhale, releasing the hands, still reaching up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, start to slide the hands down. Step off your jump to plank. Let's take another little flow. So knees up or down, lower down. Back bend of your choice. And downward facing dog. Right leg reaches up to the sky. Step the right foot in between hands. Back heel can go down to the ground. And then rise up, warrior 1. Right away, clasp hands, release pointer finger and thumb. Plug the arms in right by the ears. We're trying to bend the front knee. Obviously, knee never goes past toes, but try to sink down to a good amount where your muscles do feel a bit of strength going on. And then let's try to lean to the right. And up. Lean to the left. Up, lean slightly forward. Notice how your muscles have to work a bit harder to hold you here. Either stay at this angle or go one more step forward, just a little bit more leaning. One more nice inhale. Exhale, reach the arms up, open into warrior 2. I know, shoulder strength going on today. It's like they're a little bit dead. Drop the front elbow to the front thigh. The other arm just gets to stretch. And then rise up, warrior 2. Reverse out the arms. Left fingers drop down. Left hand up. And tracing slightly backwards. Beautiful, rising up. Now let's try to do that with our hands clasped. So right, reaching up, pointer finger and thumb released, arms plugged in by the ears. Remember, start off with your spine stretching up taller. Make sure your legs are still in that strong stance. And try to lean forward a little bit. This is more of a lateral lean than before. One more good inhale. Exhale, rise. And then try to lean slightly backwards. Inhale. And exhale, rise. Let's turn toward the top of our mat, so shorten the stance just a little bit. The front knee is now straight. Let's clasp our hands behind our back and try to pull our arms away to get into a nice shoulder stretch as we bow forward through pyramid. If your balance ever needs it, or if it's just better for the pose for you to simply drop your hands down at any point, that is okay. Bring the hands to the hips, bend the front knee to rise up to stand. From here, we're going to try to shift our weight onto the right leg. Our left knee balances in front of us. Try to wrap it like eagle's pose. Left elbow under. You can always have the toes on the ground, kickstand if you need. Good. Leave the legs wrapped for just a moment as we reach the arms up overhead. Try to clasp the hands, release pointer finger and thumb. Now kick this left leg forward. Swing it under. Trying to keep our arms right up by the ears. Let's tilt forward, warrior three. Remember, you can stay at a high angle, that is okay. Or you can continue to tilt up to 90 degrees. So it's a lot harder with arms right here. Let's just take one more inhale. And then exhale, release the hands to the ground, release the foot to the ground. We're in a nice standing forward fold. Everything up at the top of the mat. Good. And these little breaks feel our body starting to slow, our breath slowing. Just check in with yourself. Let's start heading to the second side. So inhale, slide the hands up the shins, half lift. And exhale, hands slide back down. Step walk or jump to plank. Take that little flow, lowering chaturanga. Back bend of your choice. Maybe a moment of child pose, or maybe straight up to down dog. From here, left leg floats up to the sky. Step that in between hands. Back heel goes down. We rise up, warrior one. Clasping hands together. Pointing finger and thumb released. Front knees bent. Feel yourself still breathing into the lungs, even though it's maybe harder with the arms clear up high. And start to lean just a little bit to the left. And up. Just a little bit to the right. And up. Leaning forward. Feel the muscles in that moment where it's like, oh, I have to hold on to you. Either stay at this angle or take another lean, just slightly forward of that. One more inhale. Exhale. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, open into warrior two. The front elbow rests on the front thigh. The other arm gets to stretch all the way forward. And rising up, warrior two. And then reverse it. Right fingers to right leg, top hand up and slightly back. Front knee still bent. Good. And rise. Okay, one last time. Hands reach up, clasping together. As we're getting started, straighten the spine up tall. Lean forward. And up. Lean backwards. And up. Beautiful. Releasing the hands. Shorten the stance, turning forward. The front leg is straight now. Shoulder stretch from behind, clasp the hands. and start to bow forward. Feel how even this is a little vulnerable because our hands would have to release to catch us. And so it's a little bit of that, I have to focus on the groundedness of my feet. I have to focus on my breath and slowing things down so I don't just kick myself out of balance here. If you'd like to drop hands down by this point, taking 3 more breaths, that's okay. And then from here, bend the front knee, roll up. We shift our weight onto that left foot, right knee floats. Cross it over for eagle wrap, right elbow under. One more sturdy breath here. Arms release, they circle up, clasp your hands, release pointer and thumb. Leave the arms right by the ears. Take the right leg forward. Sweep it under and back through any angle from warrior 3. So maybe a nice easy angle, or maybe continue to tilt closer to that 90-degree angle. Take one more good inhale. And exhale, completely relax everything into a forward fold. The head can be dangling, shaking yes and no, making that neck nice and loose. Bending the knees, we start to roll gently up to stand. And then we step wide on our mat, whatever direction helps you face me more easily. And from here, let's just head simply down into a nice forward fold. Choose your hands in your favorite arrangement. Maybe ankles, maybe on the floor in front of the face, maybe walking under and through. And bringing the hands under the face if they were in any other position. From here, start to turn the heels outward. And then as we're dangling here, we can have a little bit of bend into the knees. And we're gonna start swaying left. So the left knee bends and we sway to that side. And swaying to the right. Just going gently back and forth. Have lots of freedom in the neck and in the back. Helping the back space learn to be more free, more vulnerable. So any type of swaying that feels good, take it. If you'd like to add in little arm movements, like twisting one arm up to the sky when you're pointing to one side, that's okay. Any sorts of freedom in shoulders and legs and hips that are available to us here, we're trying to discover it. Beautiful. Start to bring that gradually towards stillness in the center. Bending our knees, roll our way up to stand. We can either come into a nice high lunge, so our knees are still over ankles as we squat down, hands resting on the thighs. Or if any of you have malasana in your practice, scooting the heels a little bit closer and coming to the full yogi squat, this is also an option. You can sit on a block or whatever you've got. So either up high or a little bit lower. Try to pay attention to the spine. Try to straighten that spine really tall. And then let's make this even more about the spine. Dropping the right hand down. See if you can lift the left hand directly up to the sky. And maybe lean that left arm to the right side just a little bit. Rotate that left hand through its shoulder socket, reaching behind as far as you can, tracing a big circle. And then when it starts to come forward, bring it back into the normal neutral position. Good, switching it out, left hand is down, right hand reaches directly up. Try to lean to the left, just a hair. And then continue to circle that right arm through its socket all the way behind you. All the way forward, Malasana. 2 more breaths. To lower to the ground, we have one hand in front of us, one hand behind us. Gently make your way all the way down. And into a nice wide leg shape with the legs, however wide they can actually go. Good. Our posture is tall. Keeping the posture tall, simply start tilting the right shoulder toward the right knee as if there's a magnet trying to attract it. The hands simply shift to help that stacked position happen. Once you're as close as that shoulder wants to get toward the knee, then maybe left arm also reaches up and over. And rise up. Posture tall, start to tilt as if there's a magnet trying to get the left shoulder to the left. Hands simply adjust for whatever they need to do to help that out. And then your preference if right arm also reaches up and over. Beautiful. Rising up. Swing both legs around. We're coming into a nice child pose. So just feel the spine. Notice how it releases right now. Start to walk the hands as far over to the left as the hands are capable of walking. Walk all the way through the center and over to the right. And back to the center, 2 more breaths. And then as we rise up from here, I want you to think in your mind's eye, what is one more vulnerable pose that your body wants you to take today? So this could mean trying a little challenge, like a shoulder stand maybe. This could mean going into frog pose, knees nice and wide. This could mean simply going onto your back and just taking little recovery poses. Sometimes there's that peer pressure that says, I should be doing something fancy when other people are. So just tune into your body, into your inner wisdom, and let the vulnerable pose come from within. So whatever shape that might be right now, there's no pressure into what it has to look like, but take 1 or 2 more vulnerable poses, whatever that means to your intuition right now. At some point, that pose will naturally come to an end. So if there's any last recovery poses your body would love to do prior to Shavasana, take as much time as you need and only head into Shavasana when your body is so ready for it. Ready for that release, ready for the comfort. Take your time, there's no rush. Some of us are already close to Shavasana. No rush if you're still enjoying your last poses. But when you get there, perhaps, if it feels good to your intuition, perhaps again spread your arms and legs just a little bit wider than you normally might place them. And then simply try to be with your breath. That can be vulnerable. Our ego wants to constantly send thoughts to us because it gives it something to do. It feels safe. It feels like what we've always done. Can you try for Shavasana today, as much as possible, just to be with the breath? Maybe even literally thinking, inhale, exhale, and that's all. Begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Introducing little movements back to the body, starting off nice and small, fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like you're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually heading to a nice fetal position off to one side. And only when you feel ready, let yourself rise up to a comfortable seated place. With hands at our heart, we honor that part of us that showed up to be vulnerable today. We offer the parts of us that think it's possible to be embarrassed, that think that it's possible to fail in this human experience. We listen to our intuition teaching us ways, even very small ways, that we can be just a little bit more open-hearted and vulnerable this day or this week. And so with this idea to help lead us onward, let's wrap up the wonderful time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Taking a deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.